The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 580 WCHS, its employees, or WVRC Media. From the studios of WVRC Media, the country, the United States of America, the state, West Virginia, the city, Charleston. This is the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live. And your host.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
He's kind of a big deal.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Dave Allen.
Well, Dave is off today. This is Dale Cooper filling in for Dave Allen. Forgot to put my open in there, but that's okay. Thanks so much for tuning in on this Wednesday morning in the state of West Virginia, the city of Charleston. We're in the country of the United States of America. Appreciate you tuning in. It's a few minutes after 9 o'clock this morning. We have a good show for you here today. We're going to have a lot of information we're going to bring up to you. We're going to talk a little bit about the Maddox Potter Foundation. Coming up in just a moment, they have their annual fundraising event that has been expanded a little bit this year. And, of course, we all remember Maddox Potter. And so we're going to do a little reminiscing and also talk about that foundation and exactly how you can help with that. We're also going to talk this morning about new street sweeping in Charleston. That's something that's taking place in Charleston, a new schedule, and how we're deploying street sweeping in the city. And so Emmett Pepper is going to be by. We're going to talk about that. Daniel Woods is going to join us near the bottom of the hour. We're going to talk about high school baseball in the Kanawha Valley and what teams and players to look out for. And then we'll wrap up the day, or the hour anyway, at the end of the hour. Brad McElhinny will join us. That big discussion about data centers took place last night. Brad covered that. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that happened as it comes to the data centers and the discussion that was had last night during that town hall that was co-sponsored by Metro News. So a bunch of stuff coming up here today. Appreciate you tuning in to 580 Live, and I'd like to welcome our first guest onto the program now, and that is from the Maddox Potter Foundation. And I'm looking forward to this interview ever since Dave told me we're going to be doing it, because this is an important event for an important foundation, relatively new, that's here in the Valley for obvious reasons. But welcoming into the studio this morning, it's Jennifer Potter, who is Maddox's mother. Jennifer, good morning. How you doing this morning? Let me try to turn on your mic. So thank you so much for coming in. And also, Megan Diehl's with us this morning. Megan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Dale.
Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you guys coming in and sharing some of your experiences and exactly what we're going to be doing to help out the Maddox Potter Foundation. And I guess, first of all, I want to ask you, Jennifer, for listeners that may not remember or know Maddox's story, it was such a community event getting behind Maddox a couple years ago, and the young man struggled with cancer. But can you explain a little bit about your son?
Sure. So Maddox is my 16-year-old son. He passed away in January of 2025 after a 14-month battle with a rare type of pediatric sarcoma called alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma. It's a sarcoma that starts in your muscle cells, and oftentimes it will disguise itself as a sports injury. And that is what happened with Maddox. He was in the middle of his freshman year of high school golf season, playing a lot of golf, rounds of golf with his friends, practicing, hitting on the simulator, going to the driving range, playing matches. And he started complaining of back pain. And his dad and I we made the very incorrect assumption that it was just a golf-related injury, because what serious golfer hasn't tweaked their back, hasn't hurt their back?
Most common thing in the world.
Right, that's right. And so it took us a couple of months to get to the root of the problem. And by the time we figured out what was going on, his cancer had progressed to stage 4.
Oh my.
And so we really had sort of already crossed the point of no return by the time we even began treatment. But we did. We traveled to Cincinnati each and every week for about 13 months until our options became so limited that anything Maddox would have continued to do was not going to stop this disease. It was just going to delay the inevitable, but all it meant for him was continued time away from his home, from his brothers, from his community. And so he made the decision to just come home and spend the remainder of his life, in the place where he felt the safest and most loved. And before he passed away, actually, he and I had a lot of discussions about this, and those are terrible conversations to have with your kids, but I feel very blessed that I was able to talk to him about how he wanted us to proceed. And, the only request he had was just try to make sure somebody learns something from me. And so that just became our mission. A couple of months after he passed away, we decided that in order to do that, to do what he had asked, to keep that promise to him, we would form the Maddox Potter Foundation. And we picked three goals that we think he would be proud of, three areas that we thought needed addressed. It's financial assistance to families affected by pediatric cancer diagnosis. That the financial impact is swift and it's overwhelming. Funding critical sarcoma research. We all know that pediatric cancer is wildly underfunded compared to adult cancers, and rare diseases suffer specifically in that regard. And philanthropy and foundations like ours really are the main funding source for keeping these research projects going, for making sure momentum isn't stalled. And then the last thing we try to do is encourage the growth of junior golf, just because that was such an important piece of Maddox's identity. It's very much part of what made him who he is. But not only that, we try to share the message about what a great sport golf is when you're going through chemotherapy treatment. There are so many times during these protocols where you become immunocompromised and you cannot be in large groups. You maybe cannot play those large group sports. There are times when you face dangerously low platelets. So, that puts these kids at risk for excessive bleeding. So any type of contact sport is unsafe. No basketball, no hockey, no football, nothing like that. But you can still be out on the golf course, right? Because you're usually only with, one or two other people. There's, it can be modified. You can use a cart on the days that maybe you're feeling particularly tired. But we all know that all things being equal, staying active can lead to better outcomes. But even when the outcome is not going to be what you hoped and prayed for, having that little bit of normalcy, having that time, outside with your family or with your friends becomes that much more important. So we try to share that message too.
That's really carrying on Maddox's wishes. And I find it amazing. Within just a few weeks of Maddox's passing, Megan, the foundation was up and running basically based off of these pillars of his last wishes.
I tell Jennifer all the time and Davey, they amaze me every day because literally they carried on Maddox's wishes so strong and just marched forward and said that, this is what we're going to do. It's tragic. Nobody ever wants to see a 16-year-old lose their life, but Maddox's legacy is stronger than ever. And we say that every day in everything that we do and everything that we try to go out into the community and do. When you see his little golf emblem somewhere, like that's something he's touched. How much money they're giving for research, how much money they're giving to West Virginia families. These are West Virginia families that are applying for assistance. Jennifer and Davey and the foundation are very humble in all the ways that they are giving back to the community. They're providing assistance with care. They're providing assistance with, final wishes for children that have unfortunately lost their lives as well. So it's incredible. We're going into our second year of the foundation and the growth. I mean, I've told them all the time, it's something truly remarkable. I've been in nonprofits for over a decade, and it's incredible what they've been able to accomplish. And
I would just encourage folks. We used to do St. Jude Radiothons here a lot, and we've tried to help out with different initiatives, especially when it comes to childhood cancers. But it's so important with a local initiative like this that when you give locally, it's not that everybody doesn't need help, but I mean, you want to help your neighbors. You want to help specifically with pediatric cancers and things like this. Giving that money locally is very important in that case.
Absolutely. And, they don't just hone in on their pillars, but also hone in on the community as a whole. The community really rallied behind the Potters when Maddox was in his fight, and they haven't given up on returning that favor. They come from a family of coaches, a family that people that are actively involved all throughout the valley. So just seeing that and then have it be in Maddox's legacy is just another piece of that.
Yeah. My wife and I were relatively late to having a child. I'm in my early 50s and we have an 8-year-old, but she, when she read about Maddox's final passing, she just cried. I mean, she was telling me about it. I mean, because we had been talking about it and everything. And it really, as any parent out there, or any human really, but especially as parents, I think has to hit so hard. I mean, I'm amazed at what you're able to do and how you've been able to spin this into such a positive as much as you possibly can with this kind of help. I think that the important thing that we addressed here is when it comes to these funds, it goes to families here. It helps out people that are in these needs. So let's talk about how we can help these things. This fundraiser is coming up. It's been expanded now. So tell us a little bit about the history of that and how the expansion comes up.
Sure. So the golf tournament, we're holding on April 17th. We're holding a golf outing at Berry Hills Country Club, and on April 18th we are trying our hand at our very first gala. The golf tournament actually started, this will be the third year of it. It actually started when Maddox was still going through treatment. It was an initiative that the community put together for our benefit, on our behalf. And once Maddox passed, we thought, we knew obviously that golf was going to be a huge part of our foundation because it was a huge part of Maddox. And so we've continued the golf piece, and we always will. But the incorporation of the gala, the idea behind that was, not everybody golfs. I don't even golf.
I do not golf.
Not everyone golfs. I would never enter into a scramble. But, so we thought perhaps the gala would be something more inclusive that we could do. And yes, it is a fundraiser. Yes, the goal is to raise money for these families, for research, for youth golf initiatives, for caregiver kits. Yes, that is the goal. But the goal is also to just be together with the people that have supported us too. Just, a time for us, all together, a way for my family to show our appreciation for what everyone has done for us as well. So that's what we're trying to accomplish with the gala, is just, it's not just fundraising, it's relationship building, and it's showing our gratitude truly for this community.
Several different ways that you can help as a part of the community. Of course, you can sign up for the golf event, you can attend the gala, buy tickets, and do all those things. Sure. Where are we sending folks to as far as easiest access for the tickets?
So if you go to maddoxpotter.org, you'll see our event page on there. You can also please follow us on social media, on Facebook, the Maddox Potter Foundation. We do a lot of updates, different initiatives that are going. There's a lot of tickets still available. We still have some sponsorships available.
How does that work, the sponsorships, when you get a chance?
So there's sponsorships for the golf tournament, and then there's sponsorships for the gala. And something that we've been very intentional about is that we know a lot of people want to help, but, we understand, funding's tight, the economy, we get it. We know everybody's being tapped a lot by different nonprofits and their cause of their choice. So we have whole sponsors for $200, or if you'd want to be an event sponsor or a gala sponsor in the several thousands, we have something for every budget. If you have some sort of service you would like us, we're accepting live auction, silent auction items as well. If you think that you have something that would be great for that, we are open to that as well. You can reach out to us on the Facebook or on our website. But definitely there's a way for everyone to help, or just buy a ticket and attend. It's going to be a fabulous event. We have DJ EJ. He's the household name, so here in Charleston, so we're excited to have him there as well.
We're going to have a golf simulator.
We are going to have a golf simulator. We're going to learn how to play golf.
We can't escape it. We say, come to the gala if you don't golf, but there's a golf
but
simulator.
There's also golf. Yeah.
So this is just it's a great opportunity for folks to reach out and help the community, to help this really underserviced area of medical need that we have. Mm-hmm. And also, it's your neighbors, it's your friends, it's community, and it's something that we need more of today anyway. So, I mean, it's all the things lined up that folks can help with. MaddoxPotter.org is where you can go. You can become a sponsor of either of the events that are coming up. You can buy tickets to the gala. You can still participate in the golf event, right? So if you want to, or is that?
Yep. I think we have room for 2, maybe max 3 teams.
So you better hurry.
Yeah,
you better hurry.
So we do.
The teams go fast.
So if you want to play, you better hurry to do that. So we'll get that out there. And then plus, if maybe you can't quite meet the sponsor threshold for something, but you can't also attend the events, you can just send money. You can go to the site and just send money anytime. It doesn't even have to be in April. You can do it anytime.
That's Absolutely. Right. That's right. Don't ever think that if you can't buy a ticket, or if you can't pay for a foursome, or if you can't do a big sponsorship, don't ever think that it's insignificant, because it's not.
Yeah, $5, $500,
That's
whatever
right.
it is.
That's right.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's MaddoxPotter.org. MaddoxPotter.org. You can find out about the events. You can buy tickets. You can find out information about coming to sponsor, and you can just send them money, because it's a good cause, and that's something that you might want to think about doing. I really appreciate your all's time this morning and coming in and talking to us about this. It's such a massively important thing, and I think that the legacy of Maddox is very important as well. So I really appreciate you coming in. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
Megan, you as well. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So that's for the Maddox Potter Foundation, the golf outing, memorial golf outing, and the gala's coming up on the 17th and 18th of this month. This month now. It's April 1st, so it's of this month now. Our guest this morning has been Jennifer Potter and Megan Diehl. We're going to go ahead and take a break. We'll be back in just a moment, and we're going to talk a little bit about street sweeping in Charleston and a new schedule for that. Dave Allen Show on 580 Live comes to you from the Jarrett Construction Studios. Right on time, right on budget. Visit jarrettconstruction.com. We'll take a break and be back right after this. You're listening to 580 Live. I'm Dale Cooper on 580 WCHS, the voice of Charleston.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses want to thank you for shopping locally.
Aetna was there for me as I was going through a rough medical patch this year. I had peace of mind, which helped with my healing.
Those words from a real Aetna Medicare Advantage member speak to why U.S. News & World Report named us a best Medicare Advantage company. Because we show up on calls with members and doctors' offices when requested. We show up with the latest in online tools for easier access to healthcare. We show up for you. Because that's how healthier happens together. Member feedback has been edited for length and clarity.
All law firms are not the same. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Office 222 Capitol Street, Charleston. Cases will be handled by West Virginia licensed attorneys. The attorney in this ad is not licensed in West Virginia. ForThePeople.com.
Poca Valley has proudly served the citizens of Roane, Kanawha, Putnam, and surrounding counties for over a century. As your trusted community bank, we're committed to building relationships and meeting your financial needs. And with the Poca Valley Visa card, you can enjoy competitive interest rates, no annual fees, and a rewarding points program, all from a bank you know and trust. Visit your local Poca Valley office to apply or call us. Poca Valley, where relationships matter. Member FDIC.
Start your Saturday mornings at 7:06 with West Virginia Outdoors on 580 WCHS. Join Chris Lawrence as he explores the wonders of our state's great outdoors. From fishing to hiking, hunting to conservation, it's an adventure you don't want to miss.
24 minutes past the hour. You're listening to 580 Live, WCHS, the voice of Charleston. I'm Dale Cooper. Thanks for tuning in on this Wednesday morning. I always have to get my days straight. They go fast or slow, depending on what's going on. But thanks for tuning in this morning. You're welcome to send us a text, 304-935-5008, 304-935-5008. You can also send us a message on, or you can call us. Believe it or not, the phone lines still work. That's 304-345-5858, 345-5858. Is the phone number that you can use to get a hold of us. Our new guest that we have, or our guest that we have in here now, Emmett Pepper is joining us from the city of Charleston. We're going to talk about new street sweeping that's happening here. First of all, it's been a while since I've had you on this side of the studio. Emmett, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be back, and Dave's chair is in good hands here.
Well, I appreciate it. Dave is, of course, getting some. He openly shares his treatment for his the Big C, as he calls it. That's where he's at this morning. Expect him to be back for midday this afternoon, and he'll be back in this chair tomorrow. So just a brief absent for Dave. Emmett is an at-large member of the Charleston City Council. He's been there for quite some time now. And when we talk about street sweeping and stuff like that, that's kind of your focus, right? That's where the area you specialize in.
Well, it became that way. Yeah, it's certainly not the thing I was thinking about running on or anything like that 4 years ago when I ran for the first time.
You're on the Ordinance, Rules, and Environment Committee, right? Is that
those are
right?
the two committees I'm on: Environment, Recycling, and Ordinances, Rules.
So, well, first of all, what is the street sweeping change?
Yeah. So, well, the change is that we are enforcing parking on street sweeping in the afternoons on both sides of the street. Very, very exciting for people who live on the East End. It only affects the East End. This has been it's an issue that in the East End has been a hot topic of discussion, and to me that this is a perfect example of how government really should work. And it's strange that it's this issue, but there were some very loud voices, some of whom are sponsors on this show, and we love them and we buy their clothes, but who really were like, we shouldn't have street sweeping, parking enforcement. It's the only place that has it, the East End. And so I was like, well, gosh, maybe we should do something about that. And so, but then we said, well, what do other people think about it? And so we did a public meeting. We went door to door, talked to people about it and other issues, but talked about that issue. And lo and behold, it's actually more people liked to have the parking enforcement. So it's like we had to go back to the drawing board. It's like, well, how do we make this less? So at the time last year, it was 9 a.m. You'd have to move your car on one side of the street and noon on the other. And so, and I happen to live on the side of the street where it's the 9 a.m. side, but I park on both sides of the street. So anyway, the change we got is that we made it so that people don't have to rush out by 9 a.m., to rush to their cars to listen to the radio and the show. They can wait and listen in their drinking their coffee in the kitchen.
And so this is, the new schedule is basically, combining the schedules, right? Making it, so it's more of a one-stop period of time.
Yeah, it's the same time, 12 to noon every day. And actually our codes were inconsistent with what the signs were on the other side of the street too. So, everything is now consistent. It's all at the same time of day. People don't have to rush out by 9 a.m. So it was a thing. There were people who were very passionate on the other side. I like having this because, it keeps our streets, clean, and, otherwise they'll never get swept. And I think that makes sense. And the reason it's only in this area in the East End is because there's a lot more on-street parking. A lot of people do not have driveways, myself included. And so there's just a lot more, and there's just a lot more density there. So unlike other parts of the city, that's what we've come up with.
There's also more trees and things like that. I mean, more debris on the roads and stuff along those lines. I mean, there's reasons to clean off the streets other than just aesthetic appeals. You want to keep the storm drains clean and things along those lines. So you want to make sure you keep them up to date for that too.
Absolutely. And so it was just a really great example, like I said, of how government should work. We listened to lots of different voices. We came up with a policy that maybe not everybody was totally pleased with, but it was the best policy, I think.
So this was no change of area. This is just change of schedule. So if you lived within the area before, you're still in the area. If you didn't live in the area before, you're not in the area now. So there's no changes as far as that goes. So just in case maybe somebody just moved to town or they're not real for sure about what it means, what does this mean for somebody that's parking on the streets on Tuesdays or Thursdays?
So yeah, on Tuesday, you need to move it to the other side of the street if it's on the Tuesday side, or Thursday, move it to the other side of the street. Just park it there. It's good because there'll be time for people to get out, go to work, and so you can just kind of, if you're still going to be home, move it over there.
That's good stuff. So that's going to be a little bit more efficient, keep the street a little cleaner, and that's what it's all about. And I love the you can use it almost as an antidote. Sure, this was quote unquote just street cleaning. I mean, it's a part of a whole, so it's all important. But that is absolutely the way that politics should work. What you're talking about, you take public opinion, say, hey, there's a problem here. You go to the public and say, what do you want to do about the problem? And then you come up with options and put it to vote. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Yeah. Imagine that. Right.
And I didn't even get into it, but I went to the library. I was on the microfiche looking up to see if there were news stories at the time. Like, why did this happen? So anyway, yeah, it's the kind of thing that's how it should work. Absolutely. I was thinking about doing a April Fool's post today and say we're going to do alternate side parking citywide, but maybe that people don't read to the end, they might not catch it. So we're not doing that. It's just on the East End, the same place.
It was interesting. I used to visit a friend of mine in New York all the time, and he lived in a little gated community called Seagate in Brooklyn, and it was largely populated by Hasidic Jews. And there were of course there's certain times that they're not allowed to use equipment, light, different things like that. So there was an industry of people that would move their cars for them during the street sweeping because there would be certain days that they couldn't get in the cars on those days. Yeah. And so there was like a literal literal industry of usually younger men and girls that would move literally just drive from one side of the street to the other side of the street because religiously they were prohibited from doing that on that day.
But in New York, you can't do this here. But in New York, the people, when I lived in the Bronx, you would just like move over to the middle of the street, and so the street sweepers would go by and you move right back. So, and when I lived in Buffalo, they had it for snow.
Luckily, we don't have to worry about here. It's relatively simple. You try to keep it between the lines, and it helps out the community quite a bit. Emmett, that's great information. I wanted to make sure we got that out to folks. We're right here in downtown Charleston. It affects a large portion of our listening audience, and it's a relatively minor change, but one that can make difference to folks. And I want to make sure we get that out there.
Thanks a lot, Dale.
Appreciate your time. Thanks for that. That's Emmett Pepper from the City Council, and we're going to take a break. When we come back, Daniel Woods is going to join us. We're going to talk a little bit about baseball in the Kanawha Valley and what teams and players to look out for. That's coming up next. You're listening to 580 Live on WCHS, the voice of Charleston.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses live to make life better for you and your family.
He's Donald Trump's #1 enemy in Congress, Chicago politician Dick Durbin. Now, Durbin has a new scheme. He's doing the dirty work to benefit corporate megastores. Durbin's bill could cut corners on your credit card security, putting your personal data at risk. Big chain retailers and warehouse stores want to inflate their profits, and liberal Dick Durbin would help them do it. Tell senators, say no to the megastores and Dick Durbin. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
Looking for a job that matters? Putnam County Schools is hiring school bus drivers. Training is provided, competitive pay, and a schedule that works with your family life. Most weekends and holidays off. Every day, you'll be more than a driver. You'll be a hero in yellow, safely guiding our students to their future. Join the Putnam County Schools transportation team today at putnamschools.com. Apply now and drive your career forward. Looking for a job that matters? Putnam County Schools is hiring school bus drivers. Training is provided, competitive pay, and a schedule that works with your family life. Most weekends and holidays off. Every day, you'll be more than a driver. You'll be a hero in yellow, safely guiding our students to their future. Join the Putnam County Schools transportation team today at putnamschools.com. Apply now and drive your career forward.
By state. Are you ready to build something that truly makes a difference? Jarrett Construction is hiring a construction superintendent for multifamily housing projects. Jarrett Construction offers a competitive salary and excellent benefits package with a supportive and down-to-earth company culture. If you're a seasoned superintendent ready to lead from the front and take real pride in the communities you help build, then send your resume to Jarrett at jarrett-construction.com or call the office 304-344-9140 and ask for John Jarrett. Jarrett Construction. Let's build something great together.
You're listening to 580 Live, WCHS, the voice of Charleston. Give us a call this morning. The Guaranteed Bank hotline, 304-345-5858, 345-5858 for the Guaranteed Bank hotline. Tony the Taylor text line, 304. We got rid of some of the alliteration there, but not all of it. The Tony the Taylor text line, 304-935-5008, 304-935-5008. You're welcome to get a hold of us this morning with that information as well. 580 Live is brought to you in part by Pinnacle Consultants, helping to identify environmental concerns like asbestos, lead, mold, and indoor quality issues in buildings across the state, providing inspections, testing, and accredited lab services you can trust. To visit pinnaclecorp.net, helping you understand your environment, because what you don't know can hurt you. And also brought to you in part by Husson's Pizza. This month, get a large 18-inch pepperoni pizza and a pepperoni calzone, all for just $21.99. Actually, that's a older read, I believe. It's a large pizza and salad, I believe, now for $21.99 at Husson's Pizza. You can find that information. Daniel Woods is joining me now from the WCHS Metro News News and Sports studio. How you doing this morning, Daniel?
Doing well. How about you?
Doing okay, man. I'm sorry to pull you in here. I know you've had a super busy last couple of weeks with the tournament and everything that's been going on.
Things are slowing down, which is nice.
And here I am pulling you in to have a baseball conversation. But I thought this is something that I thought would be interesting to talk about a little bit. We haven't in the past done a lot of individual coverage of local high school baseball here on WCHS. We do what Metro News covers and everything else. But baseball is one of those sports that's really taking off in West Virginia across the classes. We're starting to see more players out of this state that go to larger programs and stuff like that. Give us a little bit of a snapshot of the Kanawha Valley. What have you been listening to and finding out?
I'll tell you what. It's a great start for Kanawha Valley baseball this year. I mean, Hurricanes coming off of a state championship, won Class Quad A last year. Their best player, state player of the year, Weston Smith, is now pitching for WVU, but it hasn't mattered. They're 6-1 to start the year. Brian Sutphin's team's gotten off to a really good start. Their only loss is out of state. It was a couple days ago against East Mecklenburg, North Carolina. They lost 4-3 on a walk-off in extra innings. So Hurricanes playing really good baseball. George Washington's going to challenge them for the MSAC championship this year. GW won the MSAC last year, and then Hurricane ended up winning the state championship. GW's 6-1. You drop down to Class AAA. Winfield has not played as many games. They're 3-1 and beat the defending state champions from Ripley last night, 13-6. Nitro's out to a 5-2 start. St. Albans is 5-2. And then in AA, Charleston Catholic is 4-1. They're a perennial powerhouse in the area. Buffalo's had a couple of good years in a row. They've started 3-1. So Sissonville.
Man, so the Kanawha Valley is well represented with baseball, and
very well.
That's something that I went to school at Capital I was the first class to go all 3 years at Capital. Okay. I started in '89, graduated in '92, and back then, I mean, obviously we had baseball teams, but baseball wasn't. It was football, basketball, and then pretty much everything else. And I've been really encouraged. Number one, the increase in popularity of girls basketball has been immense in the last decade, especially. And I think maybe just a little behind that, but also growing at very good pace is baseball and softball as well. But baseball is really starting to come around now. Any players that you've seen that really have caught your eye?
There's guys that are returning for some of these teams that I think have started out the way that you'd expect. Chuck Kelly from George Washington was part of that boys basketball state championship team. One of the best highlights of high school sports in the last year was the MSAC championship game last year, Hurricane and GW at Gomark Ballpark. Chuck Kelly going 1st to 3rd for the winning run for George Washington in that game. No, it wasn't 1st to 3rd. It was an inside the park home run is what it was. Yeah. It was just Chuck Kelly for an inside the park home run. It wasn't even 1st to 3rd. But GW is just a deep roster. I'll tell you what, talked about Weston Smith going from Hurricane to WVU. Slade Barton is a senior this year that is committed to WVU, played 3 years at GW. He moves to Morgantown, is playing for Morgantown High right now. GW is still 6-1. That's how good that program is. Wow. And then right now, I mean, if you're looking at somebody that is probably coming into his senior year being looked at as maybe the best player in the Kanawha Valley, Zayden Ranson from Charleston Catholic has been a 3-year starter for that team. A ton of recruiting interest for him. Was actually just named to the first team All-State AA basketball team today. Great athlete at Charleston Catholic. He's hit the ball really well to start the year for Charleston Catholic as well. So a lot of talent across the area. But it's interesting, with Weston Smith being gone from Hurricane, Slade Barton being gone from GW, some of these other teams graduating guys. It's been a really strong start for these teams, but those standout players we're still kind of seeing emerge at this point.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And one of the things that I've just casually as an observer over the years, it seems like that scouting and the development of pitching is always a little bit behind the scouting and development of hitting. And it seems like we're seeing a lot more pitching now, a lot of people that are being talked about as pitchers.
Yeah, I think so. And that's really, I think, grown kind of across this area just since I've been following high school baseball in West Virginia at a relatively high level. I mean, you go back a few years, and you get guys like Jake Carr, that had so many great state tournament performances coming out of the Kanawha Valley, going to WVU, was weekend starter for the Mountaineers as a freshman. You go back, or I should say you expand the area a little bit. You go down into Boone County, you get Carter Lyles that pitched at both WVU and at Marshall and had success in both of those places. Weston Smith is going to get opportunities for WVU, I think, sooner rather than later. And it really is something that I've seen out of the Kanawha Valley this year in particular, but last couple of years as well. it's low-scoring games, and it's not because these teams can't hit. It's because there's really good pitching in this area of the state in particular. It's fun to watch.
It's really funny that you bring that up because it's literally been me listening to you doing the scores, really. But but I've been like, wow, these scores are really depressed over like 10 years ago when I would come. It's like Winfield won tonight 17-12 or whatever it was. It's like all the games were like double digits for both the winners and the losers or whatever. Now you're getting much more reasonable sounding baseball scores, 7-3, 8-4, whatever it might be, relatively normal sounding baseball scores.
Yeah, I think so. And I should mention, I have neglected to mention Bryson Hoff from George Washington, who was their ace 2 years ago, who's at WVU as well. And I expect to get some opportunities. But yeah, I've got last night's scores just written down in front of me. And yeah, you've got GW beating South Charleston 14-0, but you've also got Charleston Catholic 3, Buffalo 2, St. Albans 5, Parkersburg South 3, Nitro 6, Chapmanville 3. I mean, the pitching is really good in this area. When you get the other team's number one, I mean, you're going to have a long night at the plate if you're not ready.
The other thing that means is generally fundamentals and defense is decent because not a bunch of runs are scoring on, the little league home runs and stuff that you see.
And we've got really good, well-coached teams around this area. That's the thing. I'm still relatively new to Charleston. It's not going to be a year that I've lived here until August. So I have this is my first high school baseball season actually being in the Kanawha Valley. But one thing that I've always picked out the last handful of years covering games at the state tournament has been these Kanawha Valley teams are just fundamentally sound. They're well coached. They run the bases well. They don't make mistakes in the field. And that's why you see teams like Hurricane winning state championships. I mean, Hurricane came down with the best pitcher in the state with a really good lineup going to the plate, but they still had to play really good Hedgesville and Morgantown teams in the state tournament last year. And looking back on that state tournament, really Hedgesville ends up winning it Hurricane, not Hedgesville. Hurricane ends up winning it because they made the fewest mistakes in those games.
And that happens a lot at this level, and fundamentals are so important. I got a text message. I don't know that you would know the answer to this, but I'll throw it out just in case you've heard anything. We have a listener at 760-900 who was wondering if any of the high school pitchers break 90 miles per hour on their pitches.
Offhand, across the Kanawha Valley, I don't know. I do know, and this is a little bit unfortunate for the baseball fans here in the greater Charleston area, Slade Barton, who I mentioned, is at Morgantown High School now, played 3 years at GW, and is going to WVU next year, is well into the 90s. And some of it's, bullpen session numbers and stuff, but I've heard 93, 94 thrown around for him, to the point that they've got some major league scouts that are starting to show up, in Morgantown right now. So, great player originally from the Kanawha Valley that is still pitching in West Virginia. Local kids right now, I'd have to get out and see some more games, but those radar guns I'm sure are going to be they're going to be fired up as the season goes on.
When I briefly thought, I was an intramural baseball player. I played football in high school, but I thought maybe I love baseball. That's my first sport. And I thought, well, maybe I'll try out, but I never saw actual pitchers before, So, the first time that I tried out for Capital, and, first of all, it was amazing because fastballs back then, 70 maybe is probably what you were looking at for a lot of those. So, I mean, just the amount that we've gotten bigger, faster, and stronger is incredible. But also the first time I saw an actual breaking ball, like one that actually broke.
Oh, it'll make your eyes cross.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't I can't do this.
It's crazy. And the way that these kids develop now, we're talking about kids 12, 13, 14 years old that know how to take care of their arm and know what they're supposed to. They're not just going out and throwing a bunch of innings in these travel tournaments and stuff. They'll pitch, but they're done and they know how to stretch and they know how to ice and they know what they're supposed to do with that kind of stuff. And that's why you start to see kids that are 17 years old in West Virginia throwing 90 plus because they've developed over that period of time.
It's amazing just in a relatively short amount of time how much this stuff changes. Great information, Daniel. I'm looking forward. By the way, what I want to know from you listening out there today, we're thinking about rolling out some games. Like I talked about, we were thinking about doing some coverage of local high school games this year. We have so many great teams here in the Kanawha Valley doing a little local baseball in between when the Reds are off or playing afternoon games or something like that. I want to know what you think. If you would be interested in hearing those things, or if you're maybe a business owner in one of these communities and you would like to help get your team on the air, let me know. You can send us a text message if you'd like this morning, 304-935-5008, 304-935-5008, or you can send me an email. I'm the right guy to talk to if you want to see these coverages. So send me an email at dale.cooper@wvradio.com, dale.cooper@wvradio.com. Let me know your thoughts on maybe seeing some high school baseball being covered here locally, and then hopefully we maybe can get some games up for you later on in the season. I'm looking forward to that. And Daniel, thanks a lot for your time, man.
Thank you. And one more quick note.
Please,
right now, Joe Mercado is in Huntington at Jack Cook Field at Marshall right now for the first day of the Huntington Highlander Classic that's going on. A bunch of local teams in action. Joe's going to have highlights, recaps, all at WVMetroNews.com over the next couple of days.
That's awesome stuff. And Joe does such a great job of covering the state of all sports. But, man, baseball season is always something special. Again, great information. Daniel, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you later on. Daniel Woods from the Metro News and the WCHS Radio Newsroom. The Tony the Tater text line is open at 304-935-5008 if you want to send any comments about if you'd like to see some baseball coverage or anything else that we talked about here today. You can give us a text. If you want to give us a call before we get it out of here, you can do that as well, 304-345-5858. Brought to you in part today by Generations Ford of Hurricane. Great deals going on now. Their selection of used vehicles. Shop and compare any used vehicle at generationsford.com. And if you need service, ask about their works package and their pickup and delivery service. Visit today just off the Hurricane exit of I-64. One destination for every generation. Generations Ford. We need to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Brad McElhinny. He'll wrap up the hour talking a little bit about the data center discussion that took place last night that was on Metro News TV. So we'll take a break and be back right after this. You're listening to 580 Live. I'm Dale Cooper on WCHS, the voice of Charleston.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses want to thank you for supporting local small businesses.
Spring has sprung. Keep up with the high school baseball, softball, and track seasons with coverage from Joe Bricado and Greg Carey on Metro News TV, plus episodes of our exclusive interview series, State of Minds, archived Tough Men events, and your favorite daily programs right on your smart TV or streaming device. Get more information at WVMetroNewsTV.com. Metro News Television is powered by Dan Cava Toyota, the WVHTC Foundation, and WVU Medicine.
What if the market drops after you retire? What if healthcare costs continue to rise? What if you outlive your savings? If these questions keep you up at night, you're not alone. And you don't have to figure it out alone. I'm John Burdett with 4th Avenue Financial, and I specialize in retirement income planning. Let's turn your what-ifs into a plan you can count on. Schedule your free consultation today at 4thavenuefinancial.com. 4th Avenue Financial, retirement done right.
Securities offered through Jenny McCall Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Jenny McCall Advisors Incorporated.
You're listening to 580 Live. I'm Dale Cooper on 580 WCHS, the voice of Charleston. Cincinnati Reds baseball. Just talked to Daniel Woods about high school baseball. For the Reds today, the Reds have an afternoon game, their rubber game match against the Pittsburgh Pirates this afternoon. That's going to be on our sister station for afternoon Reds games, 106.7, 1490 WSWW, Charleston's ESPN. The pregame will start at 12:10 with the first pitch being 12:40 over there. And if you like baseball and you like the Reds, this is a game that you might want to tune into. Pitching for the Pirates today is going to be defending Cy Young Award winner Paul Skeens, and then the Reds opening day pitcher Abbott is going to be on the mound today for the Reds. So it's going to be Skeens versus Abbott over on 1490 WSWW this afternoon starting at 12:10. So you can catch that over there today. The Reds are off on Thursday, and then on Friday back in action for a weekend series. They'll be taking on the Rangers in Texas. We'll have that game on Friday afternoon. That's also going to be late Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. That'll be on 1490 WSWW. And then Saturday and Sunday's games will be on 580 WCHS. Saturday will be the second game of a doubleheader. That's a Saturday night game. We'll also have a game between the Cardinals and the Tigers on WCHS on Saturday afternoon. So that's kind of our professional baseball coverage that we'll have here across the network on 580 WCHS and 1490 WSWW. I'd like to welcome to the phone line now is Brad McElhinny, Metro News reporter and frequent guest when I fill in for Dave, just because I don't, with my afternoon show being sports and pop culture and things like that, I don't necessarily follow some of the harder news as much as I should, and so Brad's always my guy to go to talk about those things. And Brad, how you doing today?
Oh, hi, doing good, and you are fortunate to have pop culture and sports as a way to wash away the toxins.
You ain't lying, my friend. I am extraordinarily lucky to have the show that is tasked with doing no politics. That makes it much. That makes my job sometimes maybe a little bit more fun than yours.
Well, we are at the point that I was grateful for data centers.
Yeah, you are all about the data centers, and we had this big discussion last night. I wanted to preface this just a little bit because there's a lot going on with the data centers. Experiencing a flurry of announcements here in West Virginia and other proposals across multiple counties. Google has purchased land in Putnam County for a multi-billion-dollar project. Nscale, a global AI infrastructure company, announced the Monarch Computer Campus in Mason County. Penzance Management announced a site in Berkeley County. QTS, who participated in last night's town hall, is developing a 300-acre campus spanning Jefferson and Berkeley counties, and the controversial Ridgeline facility proposed by Fundamental Data LLC in Tucker County between Thomas and Davis would pair a large-scale data center and on-site natural gas power plant. There was a lot of topics being tackled last night.
Oh, man. And to a lot of West Virginians, this may be sort of a new concept, like, all right, I've heard of these, but what is it that we're getting, and how will they affect me and my community? Because, you just rattled off communities all over the state that are now faced with, the life-changing development of these big, essentially server warehouses. And they can be, each one, depending on the developer, can be quite different from another. So this was, I thought it was the Stubblefield Institute. We at Metro News broadcast it on a variety of platforms, but I thought it was a really great and helpful entry point. And the theme that I got out of it was the state last year, the legislature and the governor put forward a bill. It was House Bill 2014, the Power Generation and Consumption Act, and it did a lot of things. Among the things was it would allow projects that are approved by the state to move forward with their own power generation, their own on-site power. But a couple other things, it divvied up the tax base with the state taking a pretty big cut, and then made it so that the local communities really have almost no regulatory control of their own. Can't really zone these projects, can't have their own sort of water and sound standards, can't necessarily, mandate that these projects have noise buffers. And that's the theme that I saw running through this was, in particular, one of the Jefferson County commissioners, where there are one or more big projects. It's just Commissioner Kara Keys, a Republican who in her private life deals with real estate and property. She was really eloquent on the fact that she just thinks that this state bill missed the mark on not allowing the unique communities across West Virginia to hold their fate in their own hands.
Yeah, I thought what she said was really kind of summarized her feelings and the feelings of a lot of people in the night. At one point, Commissioner Keys from Jefferson County said two things can be true. You can support data centers and you can be against the guardrails lacking in HB 2014. So, and I was kind of surprised in reading through the transcript and the portions that I watched. I've seen things from other places in the country where these things get really spirited with the folks that are against the data centers. And it's not that there wasn't that view represented last night, but I thought all of the reasoning behind it was actually, very reasonable, to be honest with you. With some of the concerns that were being brought up.
Yeah, if you are, let's say, a citizen in Berkeley County or Jefferson, and you have heard that some project is coming your way, and it's going into what used to be a pastoral orchard in the past, and you think, well, who is this corporate entity, and what actually will it do to my air, my groundwater, my noise, traffic, all of that? It used to be a conservative theory that the government closest to you knows you the best, and you could call the county commissioner and express your concerns or talk through it, and they would be available to you. But the route the state has chosen is sort of this, state one-size-fits-all approach. Now, I will say that the state had a representative also. It was Chris Morris, who is the Data Economy Office Director, and he was quite eloquent himself, had an air of responsibility, certainly listened, and he was not in this position when the state established the law that we've been talking But, he did say that the state wants a responsible approach, that not all applicants will get approval by the state to have this, to have their own power structure and that kind of thing. And that, he thinks that if the state wants to make an emphasis of these projects that can have an enormous tax base, there needs to be a unified state approach rather than, the opposite side of the coin for what I've been talking about with the local control is sort of piecemeal. So anyway, Chris Morris, the data center czar, if you will, for the state, making an equally compelling case to say we want a West Virginia approach to deal with these companies for an area that has a lot of potential to grow the tax base in West Virginia.
So one quote from Morris that I made note of in looking over it is he said at one point, "I would rather have 7 projects statewide that are successful than approve 195 and fail 95% of the time," which I see where he's coming from there. And I understand both of these arguments. And doing a little research and looking at other states with data centers and that are onboarding data centers, this does seem unique and maybe even novel. I can't find any other project that has this type of background where basically the state controls the entire thing. I'm not an expert in this, so I might be missing something, but I can't find anything that is that's like this.
No, and communities where the state centers are really burgeoned have had general complaints about, well, they're right up against my neighborhood. I bought my house years ago, and this is affecting now the value of my home. The place is lit up all night. There's noise. And so, I think it's a worthy discussion in West Virginia about whether local communities should have more say-so about their own standards. And, one of the good examples is there is a project set for the Kanawha Valley area. My understanding is that project has not applied for or been under the umbrella of House Bill 2014. That it's just exploring the idea of developing in Tucker County. But boy, that is a place, on the one hand, it's a very rural area. So conceivably projects could be kind of out and away from people, but it's also a really rustic and beautiful area, just prized by citizens who want to get away from it all, or West Virginians who want to see the state's natural beauty. Who want to go skiing or hiking or whatever, and it's easy to see the possibility that a large data center with its own power plant would not mingle well with the attributes I just described.
It's an interesting discussion, and like Brad said, at very least, it's a discussion that should be had. There shouldn't be anything kind of done under the covers here. This should be a public discussion and everything made in full sunlight as far as these decisions and discussion goes. That's about going to wrap up the time that we have for this morning. I know this is an ongoing story, and you'll be following it as always, Brad, at WVMetroNews.com. I appreciate you taking some time out this morning and sharing some of your thoughts with last night's event.
Yeah, if we pique your interest and you're out there, the full video as well as a Spotify link are in the story that I posted at WCHS.com.
I'll make sure that I get that out there so folks can follow along with it. Brad, I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks a bunch.
Hey, thanks.
Appreciate that. That's Brad McElhinny, the Metro News State reporter, and covering all of the important stories that you find at WVMetroNews.com. Wrapping up the show here, but coming into the studio, wandering into the studio, getting ready for his 10:06 hit on Talk Line is TJ Meadows. How you doing today, TJ? Let me turn on your mic. How you doing today, TJ?
Good, Dale. Thanks for having me.
Hey, yeah, what's on the agenda today?
Jeff Jenkins stops by. We'll talk about what bills the governor has signed, what bills he didn't. That time has expired. I'm really excited. 11:06, Chris Simbrowski. He's an astronaut. We're going back to the moon, or at least prepping to go back to the moon. I'm so excited to
Hope the weather holds out today. So,
I do too.
So
I'm
we can
excited.
make that happen.
We'll get into that and much more.
Yeah, I'm a space guy. I love that as well. By the way, got a text for you yesterday, TJ. Did you know TJ is such a capitalist that he won't let his kids play left wing in soccer? Not bad.
Touché.
Not bad, I know. Thanks for tuning in today, everyone. Thanks, TJ, for stopping in, and thanks for everyone we had on the program. Coming up next is going to be local news, and then Talk Line at 10:06. I'll be back this afternoon at 3:06 with Dave Weekly on Hotline. Have a great day, everyone, listening to Your Voice of Charleston, 580 WCHS.
WCHS AM 96.5 FM Charleston and 104.5 Cross Lanes, a WVRC media station. We're proud to live here too.